Thrand here, and I'm here with the Tøndevold Viking Spearhead. We also have other examples of it throughout the Viking age, having a small ball and a lozenge-shaped head, or a head where it's actually more of what a classical spear point a lot of people picture, you know, being almost a actual triangle. It's a beautiful spearhead. We want to explore why it was shaped like that, and we'd also like to see how effective this particular spearhead is against plate style armor, maille, and proper gambeson. And I am here with the Tøndevold Spearhead, and it's a beautiful spearhead indeed, and I can use it in any method I normally use a spear, as you can see. And we know from doing various testing that the overarm throwing slide, or overarm J-style spear thrust set up on a proper heavy pole, like my octagonal ash pole here, and I've got a little extra weight on the back. I actually have a what some people will consider an early period serrater, or a butt cap for the or butt spike for the spear, which is normally not on a Viking age spear, but I think it gives it a nice balance for me today, and I want to try do some extreme testing with the Tøndevold Spearhead from Medieval Shop. We have a ball on the spearhead, and it is diamond shaped cross section, and it's a little less than lozenge shaped as a spearhead would be a lot of times to get it out of a wound. But with this curvature here, this could be used to hook shields. I even did a little experiment with Caddy and I, checking this out and the ball on an actual shield I have here, my Gokstad replica shield that you saw me holding up. Very beautiful shield, very, very durable. While using the spear two-handed, because a lot of times you could push on the shield with the point, but you don't want it to get stuck in the shield, you can hook the shield and pull with the actual shape of the spearhead. The ball could be to keep it from actually going too deep into a person or an item, a shield or something, although I doubt it would go that deep into the shield. But the ball could also be used if you were to get caught on the edge to push forward, if you need to push and use the ball to get a little bit, but it might slip off. So I don't know if the ball was so much of a thing to push forward with as to keep the spear from going too deep, and just use the shape of the spearhead to hook shields with and be able to get inside on your opponent. We have our breastplate put on our Valkyrie, or mannequin, and she has our ballistics gel inside. If you notice, a lot of you are going to say that it looks like it's put on backwards, and you can see all the holes that have been hammered out that have already been put in it before from multiple tests. I've tested with all different types of spears, and everything from an Iron Age Celtic spear that's made more modernly in higher grade metals and so on, to a Viking Age javelin and spear point. But today, we've got it on backwards, and the reason why, it's less likely to skip off, and we want to go to the other test quickly without having to retouch it up, and it's closer to our gel. At the time this was done, just like the dole, we tested, if a lot of you want to compare this to the Japanese Tosei Gosoko dole, it's domed. The dole was able to bend easier. This is much harder to bend, this gauge of metal. It's 14 gauge and 15 gauge in areas where it's been hammered out and slightly hardened. So if it's not really close to the gel, where it's like maybe maybe a finger width away, I don't think there's any chance of even touching the gel. Do I think I'm going to kill the man through it? No, but I think the spear might do better than it has a lot of other shapes that we've used. So I'm really curious what it might do. So we've got it set up with the back facing forwards, so it's closer to the gel, although the other side's even farther from the gel, maybe 2 or 3 inches from the gel, if not more. You'd have to go through all that just to hit the person. That's why all they were worried about on their Akatans or arming jackets was the gussets under the arms, or in the elbow bends, and so on. Those would be heavy gambeson, or gambeson that you could actually move in, and maybe possibly light maille. But today we're not worried about that. We know that that's the way to defeat the man in this kind of plate, is to go for the niches. We're just worried about trying to pierce the actual plate to see if it's plausible, if it can actually be done. I'm going to use the overarm throwing slide, or I'm not going to actually slide it so much as do a J-style technique like I did with the Tosei Gosoko, if you want to check that out on the Patreon special. And I'm going to try to put everything I got behind it like I did at Osfolk Viking Martial Arts against the maille armor over the clay, and see if I can get through that breastplate with the same technique. Got a pretty good hole, but not anywhere near gel.
high for the gel.
A little bit high for the gel. It went into her boob actually.
Stop aiming at the boob.
Wasn't doing that intentionally, but that's what happened. It actually, I can see the actual little bit of fiberglass come out, and I think that the boob, our fiberglass boob, which is kind of hilarious, actually stopped it from going deeper because the fiberglass is very, very hard. It's like having a very hard backing or a bone directly against the back of the actual breastplate itself. So we'll have to try that again.
Always boobs on your mind.
Haha. Okay, let's give that another shot. Ah! Let's see how we did here. That would be over gel. That's what I was aiming for. But of course, with it being this thick, 14 gauge compared to 18 gauge, and we've done this before, it's really hard to get very deep. I don't think it made it to anything. We got in maybe about 3/4 of an inch or half an inch or so. I'd say about a half an inch, and it did do some denting. I don't think that hit gel. I really just don't see it. We have a hole in it, but it went much deeper like I thought without hitting over the actual mannequin, which helped reinforce the hull. Okay, an assessment of our damage. I would say it's about a half an inch using my famous finger or inch increment, or the thumb, about a half. So that's what we normally get. If you pay attention to what happens in our videos when we test spears like this, I was hoping that this profile might have got a little deeper, but this is a 14 gauge breastplate, and you can see completely through the hull, and if this was against the body, you would be bleeding. It would actually injure you. How does this rate with the Tosei Gasuku that we did on Patreon? On Patreon or on Subscribestar, if you'd rather go there, you can watch a video where we tested the Tosei Gasuku with the same spear, the Tøndevold Viking spear design, and it went way deeper. We injured the samurai, if not killed him, with the spear. You might want to check it out, but on this one, as far as it sets away from the body, I'm sitting here looking at this. This is probably the deepest we're going to get, maybe a hair more. It would have to go in over an inch. I doubt that that spear design will do that. The only thing that has done that so far is the Corsicu. The Corsicu was able to go through about an inch, 3/4 inch to an inch, and sometimes a hair over. That still wouldn't be enough to hit our ballistics gel. Our ballistics gel is totally unscathed up here from our test. I think we'll get better results on Maille like we did in Ausflug Viking Martial Arts. We'll go ahead and try that out, but we didn't have ballistics gel last time. We had clay, so it should be a different medium, different test. This would rate with the breastplate we have here, would definitely rate with the Namban Dole. It'd be close to what they might have had if they imported it from the Southern Barbarians. It actually would have been the Westerners. So yeah, the samurai could have had a plate like this, but generally this wasn't that common. Sometimes they did make thicker plate to stop firearms. Okay, this is common modern gambeson, and not to say that they didn't use anything like this historically. The outside is one layer of tightly woven linen, and it is back and front, just one layer. Historical gambesons were 15 to 30, somewhere in that range. Even 10 sometimes was used under Maille and so on, because all the layers of cloth, if this is raw cloth and not just felt, mostly felt batting in the middle. Kind of like you'd do a quilt, it's just quilted together. So this has padding. Yes, it could stop a cut, having all those fibers as the cut is drawn across, depending on how much edge hits. A tip shot of the blade might go through, or a thrust most certainly would probably go through this. That's why I prefer today, we're using this. It's not as tightly woven, but this is 16 layers, excuse me. This is 16 layers of kind of a loose woven linen, but it's still better than the modern stuff against thrust. So today, since we're working with a spear and thrusting, I prefer to use this. Just pretend it's quilted. It would perform the exact same way as this against cutting and pretty much impacts. The only difference is it will resist the thrust much more because there's so many more fibers it has to cut through there, or together. They're actually held together and woven, not just loosely batted and stitched between some squares like a quilt. It's really tough ballistics gel, 20% ballistics gel or gelatin. It's in our mannequin body, and what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and put this 16 layers of, I would say it's fairly tightly woven linen, and it is true linen, and I think that would be more than enough to wear underneath a actual male halberd. We have our gambeson, our tightly woven tunic over that. That is 16 layers. More than enough, I believe, will work for protection under mail, and it's not too thick. Helps resist thrusting and anything that goes through, and gives a buffer in the distance between the actual mail and the body. We have our 17 gauge riveted round ring and flat solid ring, stamped rings. This was common. This was considered one of the better mails. It looks very much like the mail that we at at Ausfolk Viking Martial Arts, brought there by the Ewart Oakshott Institute, and a 14th century example. Me and Roland Rosecca have tested this mail before. It's been tested against arrows. It stopped arrows from up to a 70-pound bow easily. I will be getting a war bow soon, hint, hint, guys. And we will try it with bodkins and everything with over a 100-pound bow. Now that will be an interesting test. But arrows were unable to penetrate it. The only thing we penetrated was with a Norman spear at Ausfolk Viking Martial Arts. And right now I'm going to try with the Tøndevold spear and see if the Tøndevold can actually pierce it over ballistics gelatin, which will be at first. That was a bit high, and I was unable to pierce it. I might have injured her slightly, but it didn't actually pierce it. We have a damaged ring slightly. Let's go ahead and try that again. Sorry about the screaming, but it helps with the pain of trying to thrust through this. Just warming up here, guys. See what we got. We may have cut a few rings. I don't know how bad she's wounded though, but this is going to be fun to check out. This shows mail is extremely effective. That's all I can say. See what we got here. No, we didn't make it completely through. She may be wounded under there. We damaged some rings that I'm going to have to replace, as I showed in one of my videos on how to repair the stuff. We haven't made it through yet. Wow. Let's go ahead and give it another good one. This one looks like it might have done a little bit more, maybe. Impressed with this mail than I expected. It's doing better than the 18 gauge plate would have. We actually broke a rivet. It looks like where it was riveted, it failed, but it wasn't able to go through.
We'll find out how many stabby holes.
Let's give it one more try.
We have in a little bit.
Good armor. I'm proud to wear it.
You just want to run the tank.
Ah! Don't know if we got through her this time or not, but this time we might have done it. I am going to have to repair all this, but it looks like we actually pierced it this time, and we'll see how good we did. This one might be our money shot. But mail is not a sure thing to pierce. That's why people loved it. Yes, you could take internal injuries from the extreme force and impact, but the chance of cutting through it, yeah, we finally cut through it. We got about an inch. The mail has proven, even though the Japanese wore kasari as well, proven to be better than the plate, other than the plate being away from the body and absorbing more energy, not being directly against the body for impacts and thrust. See how big a cut that is. Let's examine that. We actually cut some rings out, did we not? And yes, I will repair this. I have kits to do so. I have extra rings and tools and rivets.
I thought you just stole my level-working tools.
Oh, some of that too. Caddy.
My tiny anvil.
Okay, everything else is intact. It might need to be, you know, cut out and repaired, but see how it scored the ring and tried to cut it? It shows how sharp of a weapon we're using. This one actually cut some rings, and I see the rings falling down, and that's always fun if we can actually get any of them and exhibit them. It cut the ring. That is not a broken rivet. The rivet's intact, but the 17 gauge ring wire finally was cut. Can everybody see that properly? I'm sure they can, hopefully. Okay.
One of the cameras that should have gotten it.
All right, that was impressive because we know how hard mail is to pierce, and our only piercing is right there, and this is going to be the fun part, trying to get this off of her. See, it cut through the actual tunic.
Check the belly.
Check the belly, that's what we're trying to get to right now. It looks like it cut through the actual 16 layers of linen. That one wounded it. It actually hurt it. Because I tried to,
scratchy.
Yeah. I don't know if it went into her. Some of these were already here, but we're trying to see if we made it all the way through the Gambeson.
Nope.
As good as we did, and we're able to pierce the actual armor, we weren't able to. Oh, nope, maybe.
Tiny little scratch in her.
She has a hole in her, right here.
Tiny little one.
And this, the thickness of this and that, and an inch, she probably has about a 1 inch penetration. Let's go ahead and see if we can check that out. Here, hold this up for me. All these innuendos, Matt Easton will love this video. But I'm just curious because we did this with like the samurai armor and everything else. I don't know what you guys think, but this was better than we got on the mail. It's over a ½ an inch into her body. I think that's about right, yeah. So she's wounded and bleeding, but you would certainly survive this on the battlefield. I doubt that would take you out of the fight. So I think that
afterwards, depending if you had people who knew what they were doing, but that's another story.
True, but I definitely would unnerve you, and you wouldn't want to be bleeding, but you would definitely live. I can't wait to see what the heavy warbow that we eventually get in actually can perform on this. The warbow is going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Now we're going to do 32 layers of Gambeson, 32 layers of cloth, linen that is Gambeson, and see if it goes in deep enough that this ball actually proves a point that maybe it's to keep it from going too deep, or how protective that form of armor would be, just standalone cloth armor, which I think is probably the first armor ever created. Ah! Well, I think we killed her finally. We know this is a lot more resistant to thrust. The actual 32 layers of linen, instead of just using a quilted linen and batting of some sort like wool.
She did.
Yeah, but the ball most certainly could have kept it from going too deep. In this case, it looks like the actual spear shape itself stopped us with the cloth. Without the Gambeson, this ball might be what you need to keep you from going too far and over penetrating. I'm just curious if it went out the backside.
So am I.
Not that I know of there. Let's go ahead and pull this out. This is like some massive penetration, and it's not easy to get out. It's stuck in there. That is the whole blade, so I don't know how you rate that, but this is the kill that we wanted. It cut through all those layers of Gambeson or cloth.
One of these days I'll take up weaving and we can
The Tøndevold Spearhead seems to be very effective. It looks like it would work on mail. You could wound warriors on the battlefield, even though we didn't get a kill today. It might be possible to get a kill depending on the luck of your blow and how much vigor you put into it. Possible, but it didn't seem to have killed her. But this, I hate to say, if I can get this off quickly, finished her outright. And the next video we should be coming out with will most likely be the warbow. If not, we'll be doing more with the actual falx. We have a new falx coming in that's a hand-and-a-half falx, which is actually a historical one, even though a lot of people would not believe that. This got damaged from the impact and it just cutting her because of the mannequin. It's a mannequin. Can't help that. That's a lot of impact and force. But here, yeah, that's all the way through almost. Let's see if it went out the backside of our gel. I'm very curious. Yes.
Yeah.
It went into the back of the mannequin. This went through. So we can actually do this one in this manner.
You're going to stuff it right through her belly, ain't you?
Oh, I'm going to see how far it went out the back, possibly. It's going to be harder to follow that wound channel, but it would still be nice to see if we can see it.
Even more.
Oh, even more, yeah. But
about there.
Yeah. So this gives you an idea that the Gambeson was effective, but against a good solid hit from a razor sharp spear, shaped properly with a proper amount of force and technique behind it, yeah, I think she's dead. It hit the backside.
She's dead. It went out her bloody back.
But anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed our episode today. We tried really hard to produce something good for you and show you the Tøndevold. I do think this was probably to stop over penetration and to strengthen the socket. Not only that, it's artistic. If you look at the little rings on here, they're on the actual Tøndevold spear. And this, it's probably an artistic expression, but also it helps strengthen the socket joining to the actual blade of the spear. So anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed the episode, and be sure and check this out on Medieval Shop and be looking for our bow episode. And as always, farewell.